In Skyrim, you are given many different weapons to dispose of your enemies. Daggers, maces, warhammers, various different offensive spells, shouts, and much more. But what if your Dragonborn was a lawful good character? Can you beat Skyrim as a pacifist? Now this challenge is going to require a couple ground rules. What do I consider to be a pacifist run? Well, first of all, I can't kill anything. That's the most obvious and probably most challenging one. Second rule is that I can't deal any damage to opponents when it's avoidable. There are some points where it is necessary, but I'll mention it when I get to it. I am allowed to cast spells and use effects on enemies such as Calm and Fury, but only if they don't deal direct damage to them. Third rule, and this one might be the most important as far as how smooth the whole run goes, I'm not allowed to use any followers. Sure, it's not me killing anything, but if they are killing for me, I would still have a guilty conscience. I loaded back to a prisoner save so I didn't have to go through the cart ride, and began to make my character. I went with Imperial this time around for a very specific reason. Imperial's racial ability lets you calm down all enemies in a good radius of you. This was a very important tool in this run. I made him look as weak and feeble as possible. Enemies could never be intimidated by a man like this. I called him Lil Wussy Bag, because he's too wuss to kill anything. Helgen goes pretty normally. I just run past everything and go into the keep with Hadvar. In the keep itself, I just run past all enemies basically and loot whatever I can. I test out the Voice of the Emperor ability in the room with the archers. It didn't quite reach this guy, but that's alright. And then I just ran past everything else and escaped the cave. Now I'm out in the big wide world and this challenge can really begin. I'm obviously not going to Ambershard Mine or any bandit camps in this run, so I go straight to the Standing Stones and pick the Thief Stone. I picked this because I thought that sneaking would be an important part of this run to get past enemies, and it was to a certain extent. Then I go straight to Riverwood, steal all of Alvor's stuff, and head to Bleak Falls Barrow, the first major roadblock in this challenge. This is where I first learned what this challenge was going to be like. I managed to just sneak past the bandits in the watchtower, and I ran past all of the bandits hanging out outside the entrance to the dungeon. The two guys inside didn't really want to let me sneak, so I ran straight past them and managed to lose them in these tunnels. I let this guy kill himself on an obvious puzzle. He deserved that, let's be real here. Then I run past these skeevers who just had it out for me and entered the spider room. As it turns out, you don't need to kill the spider, so I just took Arvel down from the webs and let destiny take its course. The skeevers got him, so I took the golden claw and kept going into the dungeon. When it came to the Draugr, there was obviously not any normal means of getting rid of them, so I looked to my environment to find solutions. Traps. There are a few traps in Bleak Falls, swinging axes, walls of spikes, and all of them can be used to kill Draugr without having to touch them. So in this first room, the swinging wall of death was put to good use, and in the next one, these axes proved useful in taking care of any threats for me. Any enemies I couldn't kill, I just ran straight past. I tried to block out a few behind me with this door, but they got through, so I just kept running until they lost my trail. Eventually, I got to this room here that leads to the Sanctum, and the restless Draugr decided to follow me through. Fortunately, there are some swinging axes here, and he was silly enough to walk through them for me. These guys were a bit of a pain, but I did manage to just run past them and I entered the final boss room. Here is where my brain starts ticking, because there was no obvious way to kill this boss Draugr. There were no traps in the room, no big falls to send him down, not even any flammable oil on the ground. The only way I could think of getting rid of him was making him follow me all the way back through to the other room that had the swinging axes. So that's what I did, and oh god was this a pain. I don't think his AI was meant to be in this part of the dungeon, so randomly he would just stop following me and I would have to get him to move inch by inch to follow me through. The other Draugr I ran past before also made things hard, as they would get in my way and in the Overlord's way, which made this whole process much harder. Eventually, after a lot of effort, I got him to follow me down to the axes, and I have officially cleared Bleak Falls Barrow as a pacifist. Now it's time to head to Whiterun. Before I talk to the Jarl, I quickly go to Farengar and buy some spells from him. I got Calm, Courage, Fear, and Fury. Out of all of these, I only ever used Calm, but hey, at least they were there if I wanted to use them. Irileth goes out of her way to talk to me. Then, after a quick conversation and spending way too long knocking everything off these tables, it was time to fight the first dragon. Well, it was time for them to fight the first dragon. I had just hidden the tower. There wasn't really much else I could do, and they were more than equipped to take care of it. After waiting around for a bit, the dragon was dead, and I am now the Dragonborn. I deny Lydia's advances, this time only because I can't have followers, and head out to Helgen. Time to go to High Hrothgar. Really, this wasn't very difficult, just time consuming. I put Klimek's supplies up there for them, which later got me a nice 500 gold for my effort. I didn't realize he paid that much, I should do his quests more often. I speak to Arngir for a bit, then I'm forced to shout at him. I just did it to get on with the story. It obviously didn't kill him, and he said it wouldn't harm him, so I think lore-wise this is still Pacifist certified. Now it's time to head to Ustengrav, and honestly this wasn't too bad because I could just run through everything. I was in and out of there in under 10 minutes. When I got outside, I couldn't fast travel away because of the necromancer outside, so I just calmed them down a little with my very demanding voice and went to Riverwood to speak to Delphi. After a quick chat with her, I had to go to Kynesgrove and help her kill a dragon. Well, that's what she thinks. I'm just gonna hide in the trees like the coward I am. She was struggling a little bit and kept falling down, so I drew the dragon's attention from her, and after a good while, she managed to kill it. Now it was time for what I was most fearing in this challenge, the Thalmor Embassy. And goddamn, I was right for fearing this. Before I entered, I realized that I had completely forgotten about the easier way to do this, and I was regretting picking Imperial. If you didn't know, apparently if you're a high elf and wear Thalmor clothes, you can just walk past most of the enemies in the embassy until the very end. So in an effort to make this easier for me, I entered in the show race menu command and made myself into a high elf. I know you think this might be cheating, but don't worry, it didn't even work, so I made myself back into an Imperial anyway. But because it resets everything, I renamed him to Mr. Wussy Pants, and he didn't look as wimpish anymore. Oh well, it was an experiment gone wrong. Science called for me to at least try this. So I didn't really have a plan going into this. I just ran past them all and tried to get through it and out of there. Then I realized that the final trapdoor requires a key to get through, and that key is on one of the Thalmor you're meant to kill. I was left completely hopeless, just running around trying to figure something out. I was going in and out of buildings, trying to hide, trying anything and everything in my power to figure something out. Then it hit me, an idea that might just work if I was lucky. I went back into the final room with the trapdoor and used Voice of the Emperor. It worked on the Thalmor, and I hid behind the stairs and pickpocketed the key off the Thalmor soldier. It actually worked, and I went straight through the trapdoor and escaped. That has got to be the most stressed I've ever been in a challenge. Enemies were absolutely everywhere. After that, I went to Riverwood to talk to Delphine, and now it's time to head to Riften to retrieve Esbern from the sewers. Once again, it goes pretty smoothly. Just have to run through everything and go back out. It's a lot less time consuming than the no damage run, let me tell you that. I get Esbern back to Delphine, and after a nice reunion that really just consisted of me slamming my face into them until the quest progressed, it was time to go to Skyhaven Temple. I run past everything. I almost got blown up by not following the Dragonborn marks on the ground, but that's no biggie. And I get to the temple before being told that I need to go to High Hrothgar to learn Dragonrend. When I go there, I accidentally took a potion without thinking, and these old men just weren't having any of it. They fucking demolished me, the Dragonborn, with the horn of Jürgen Windcaller in my back pocket because I accidentally grabbed a potion. What the fuck? Anyway, I learn Clear Skies and go up to talk to Party Snacks after dodging some ice wraiths. And now I need to go find an Elder Scroll. College of Winterhold, Arcanium, Icefields, Septimus, and now I can go and get one from where I knew it was this whole time. Before I went to the Dwemer Ruin though, I properly prepared this time. Not only did I steal a bucket, I also stole a wooden plate this time. Nothing was going to stop me from clipping through that gate. While I was looking for all that stuff, I also searched around for a platter. The bucket, wooden plate, and platter are the three main items you use for clipping into areas in Skyrim. They make up the holy trinity of good game design. With all three, I would be unstoppable. But for some fucking reason, there were no platters in all of Winterhold. I even went to the Jarl's Hall to see if there were any, and he doesn't even have a dining area. Listen bro, eating dinner on your chair with your plate on your lap is something gamers like me do, not you. Anyway, with my plate and bucket handy, I go to the Dwemer dungeon. I tried the bucket to skip past it, didn't work as per usual, so I whipped out the wooden plate. And by golly, it worked. It actually worked. I just ignore these two people arguing and run straight through Blackreach, and before long I'm pressing a bunch of buttons until it spits out the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Now it was time for some of the biggest bullshit I've ever had to deal with. Alduin. I go to the rip in the space-time continuum and read the Elder Scroll. I was feeling impatient, so I set the time multiplier to 20. This glitched everything the fuck out, but I eventually got out of that hellhole and I started the fight with Alduin. I can't attack him, and I don't have any followers, which means that Paarthurnax is my only way to beat him. My method here was to hit both of them with Dragon Rend over and over again, so that they will be both forced onto the ground constantly and doing damage to each other until Alduin was dead. One tiny little itty bitty problem with that. When Paarthurnax is knocked down, he just doesn't heal, and sits there like a dickhead waiting for me to finish the fight, which is something that I obviously can't do. So I was at an impasse, with no way to defeat Alduin. Or was I? See, there's a spell in Skyrim that many of you may be familiar with, Healing Hands. What this spell does is heal whatever you're casting it at. I don't have this spell right now, and I don't even know if it would work on dragons, but it was my only chance to defeat Alduin and not fail the challenge, so I have to try it. I walk down the mountain and fast travel to Dragon's Reach. I talk to Farengar, buy the Healing Hands spell, and fast travel back, ready to test if this would actually work. The fight starts again, and I use the same tactic as last time, keeping them on the ground for as long as possible. Then Paarthurnax gets knocked down. Now it's time to see if this is all for nothing. I cast Healing Hands, and it works. He gets knocked over and over, but bit by bit he does more damage to Alduin until he's defeated, and I can continue the challenge. Now, after that stressful situation, it's time for politics! I was silly and went to Solitude before I talked to Arngir, so I had to go back, make sure he was chill with the idea, then go through as normal. Once again, I'm gonna skip this bit, it's boring and doesn't add to the challenge in any way. Now it's time to trap the dragon, and this wasn't too hard overall. I tried to save the guard again by this time hitting the dragon with Dragon Rend before he swooped, but that didn't work. I trapped the dragon and head to Skuldafn. We're in the endgame now. I just run and run and run and heal and run some more. I managed to get through the dungeon fairly easily, except for one tiny problem. There is a Draugr that has the diamond claw on him, and I need that to get out of here. The other Draugr already stepped on the fire trap in the hallway to him, so I was almost out of options in way to kill him. Almost, because there was one thing I could do. I gradually drag him back through where I came from, into this little room with 2 other Draugr in it. There's a fire trap in here that is activated by knocking down this little bottle. I couldn't quite reach it with my hands, so I equipped the fire spell and was careful to only hit the bottle. It fell, fire exploded everywhere, and the Draugr died. I'm so glad that worked. If it didn't, then I really don't know what else I could have done. I exit the dungeon and run straight for the portal, just getting there before the Dragon Priest grabbed the staff and closed it. Here we are, Sovngarde, right at the end of this challenge. I get to Soon, and then I realize this is going to be harder than I thought. To be let into the Hall of Valor, you need to get past Soon by bringing his health down and defeating him in battle. Obviously, I didn't want to do that as it goes against the challenge, so I did some research to see if there was any way to get past him without attacking. I tried using Voice of the Emperor on him, and while that did calm him, it didn't let me get past. According to my research, there is no way to get past him without damaging him. So, I drew my sword and did what I had to do. To my defense, I didn't kill him, so technically the challenge is still valid. This is just one of those times where you need to deal damage to progress the run. After going to the Hall of Valor and having a chat, it's now time to finish this challenge. The final fight with Alduin. As expected, I just hid for the fight and hit him with Dragon Rend over and over again. I also used Healing Hands a bunch on the other warriors to let them do most of the damage. It worked, and the other warriors defeated him. Almost. Oh, so very close, but not quite. The player character needs to do the last damage to Alduin in order for him to be killed. There is no way around this. It has to be the player that does it. And so, all out of options, I pull my fists out and hit him once, beating the game. So, can you beat Skyrim as a pacifist? Well, kinda. Other than Soon and Alduin, you really can get through pretty much all of the main quests without dealing any direct damage yourself. You don't have to kill Soon, so as long as you're fine with dealing damage but not killing, that's fine. It's just Alduin. You need to do that last bit of damage to beat the game. So, in my books, I did it to the best of my ability. This challenge was pretty fun, and definitely got me thinking outside the box a lot more than my other runs. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more. Huge shout out to all of my members for supporting the channel, you guys are amazing, and special shout out to my Insane Person tier members, Waluigi and Alias. Join the Discord server down below if you want to get the latest updates on the channel and have a way to contact me, plus it's a nice little community we're growing over there. Thank you all so much for watching, have a wonderful day.